Hi, I'm Wayne Allen Root for Personal Liberty. Only a madman would gamble with our lives, our children's lives, and the entire American economy. Why would President Obama play Russian roulette with the future of our country? It's a gamble no sane leader would ever take. The life and death issue I'm talking about here is Ebola. The president is more concerned with political correctness and golf than taking common sense precautions to prevent a deadly pandemic. Why does this president not see his responsibility is to keep the odds as low as possible? There are three simple common sense actions any president who cared about America's citizens would take. Number one, simple, ban all flights from the Ebola zone and quarantine all travelers coming from any Ebola zone. This is an absolute no-brainer. Time is wasting. It should have been done months ago and may already be too late. Who knows how many people in America right now or flying here tonight or tomorrow are already infected. Number two, also simple, secure and seal the border now. Any day, any minute, illegal immigrants sick with Ebola could be walking across our border. Worse, how easy is it for our radical Muslim enemies to send Ebola-infected terrorists across the border on purpose? How simple to infect and send hundreds of Ebola suicide terrorists into our hospitals and children's schools. All our radical jihadist enemies have to do is inject tainted Ebola blood into volunteer suicide bombers, or worse, innocent children, and send them across the border. Undetectable, they walk across our southern border, showing no symptoms, and surrender to U.S. border agents. Obama disperses them across the country where they sneeze or cough on their lawyers, caretakers, and classmates. It's that easy. It's that simple to start a deadly Ebola pandemic across America. Equally disturbing, what if Ebola spreads to Mexico, Central or South America? Suddenly panic ensues and hundreds of thousands of their citizens, or perhaps millions of citizens, run for the U.S. border looking for America's medical system to save them, spreading Ebola like wildfire into your home and your community and mine. Our border is wide open to bring death and disaster ending America as we know it. Yet President Obama is unwilling to do a thing to secure it. Nothing, nada, zip, zilch. The question is why? Number three, return all U.S. troops from the Ebola zone. Obama's decision to send troops to Africa is pure madness. No good can come from sending 4,000 U.S. troops into harm's way of an invisible deadly germ. Can you imagine the panic that will ensue if any or all the troops get infected by Ebola? While at sea, would they just leave the ship at sea? Will returning planes be diverted to military bases where every soldier is a ticking time bomb that could affect friends, family, entire communities? Mr. President, it's time to tell the truth about Ebola. It's far easier to become infected than doctors or health experts are telling us. We're told becoming infected is an extremely remote possibility. Really? An NBC cameraman got Ebola without ever touching a sick patient, without ever entering the room of an Ebola victim. A nurse in Dallas got Ebola while wearing heavy protective gear. Over 200 doctors and nurses in Africa are dead, despite wearing protective gear, washing hands with bleach, and knowing exactly what they were dealing with. Still, they're powerless to stop it, and many of them are dead. My new book, The Murder of the Middle Class, focuses on economic murder. Ebola is the embodiment of this murder. An Ebola pandemic will kill thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of Americans. But separate from the human tragedy, the economic cost will overwhelm and bankrupt our country. The cost of treating one Ebola patient is beyond comprehension. It's in the millions. Special ambulances, isolation chambers, hazmat suits, weeks or months in the hospital, quarantines for every person or animal that came into contact with the Ebola victim, decontamination teams for their homes, and special handling of their bodies for burial. We're talking about millions of dollars for every Ebola patient. Multiply that times thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of victims. If Ebola gets loose in a crowded urban area, America's economy will crumble. Then there's the death of tourism and commerce. Restaurants, hotels, airlines, shopping centers, movie theaters, sporting events, tourism and entertainment of all kinds will be shut down cold. Sports seasons will be canceled. Americans will be trapped in their homes, frightened to go outside. Commerce will grind to a halt. Jobs lost by the millions. The economic devastation unimaginable. America's economy, which is already on the ropes, will be in ashes. The result is total economic ruin. Yet knowing all this, Obama does nothing. He refuses to secure the border. He sends our young military men and women into the death zone to face an invisible killer in Africa. He even purposely chooses to refuse to do something so simple and common sense as ban flights and quarantine travelers from the Ebola zone countries in Africa. Our president is putting all of our lives, our families, our economic survival at risk. He's gambling with our children, our lives, the future survival of America, yet none of this has to happen. Why take that gamble? Why risk economic suicide? Why not take all possible actions and precautions to limit the spread of a widespread epidemic? Is Obama criminally insane, a madman, an ignorant, delusional fool, or is he doing this purposely to overwhelm America's economic system? Cloward Piven. Does it matter? By the way, as America's first case of Ebola transmitted on U.S. soil was announced, where was Obama? Playing his 200th round of golf as president. Any American who isn't blind can see something is very wrong. It's time for patriots, political and military leaders to speak up. Our president is reckless, irresponsible, incompetent, or evil, or all the above. Regardless of the reason, for the sake of our families and our economic survival, it's time to remove Obama from office now, before it's too late, before he gets us all killed. I'm Wayne Allen Root for Personal Liberty. See you next week. God bless America.